G'day and welcome back to 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. Today's album appreciation and breakdown is Peter Gabriel's So. Here's what to expect in this video. Together we're going to go through each song on the whole album. I'm going to talk about what's going on and what I think is cool about each of these songs. You won't need to be a musician to understand what I'm saying, but hopefully, if you're not a musician, hopefully it'll be a little bit of an ear training to you. Over time, watching videos like this, you might find that yourself on different albums that I haven't reviewed or other people haven't reviewed, that you might start to pick out what other instruments, singers, drums, all that stuff is doing on your own. And as always, I will manage to do all this without talking over any of the music. Also, if you do enjoy the video, please don't forget to give it a like. I'm not one for begging for likes and shares, but I've found that when other creators have done this and reminded me, I'm like, oh, whoops, I forgot to like the video. It's also a good reminder when you revisit a video to see, oh, I've already liked it, I must have seen it before. Sometimes that's the way to go. And also, if you do like this kind of content, you like content about music in general, please follow me because then you will see more of me in future. And the first song is called Red Rain. Of course, Peter Gabriel is the lead vocalist, as all of the songs, and then we have David Rhodes on electric guitar, who is a long-term collaborator with Peter Gabriel. He's also a producer. Then the actual producer of this album, Daniel Lanois, he's also playing guitar on this song. Then we have what most people, I guess, would know him as a bass-playing legend, Tony Levin. He's also been a long-time collaborator. Then on this one, again, Jerry Marotta, another long-time collaborator, playing drums. On the hi-hat, just the hi-hat alone, is Stuart Copeland from The Police. If you don't know that name, he's the drummer from The Police. And then we have Chris Hughes, who did the Lim drum programming. Now let's get into it. And you will notice this song gradually starts off, and the first thing you'll notice is the drums as they come sweeping in. You know, do you hear that already? Tony Levin, you heard that's Stuart Copeland on the hi-hat, but then the bass there, that is so cool. And then he gives that little bit of a run and you can hear, just very gradually, you can hear the drums just in the background, but keep listening. That is very, very cool. And if you didn't know that Peter Gabriel was a drummer first before he did or anything else, that's where you can kind of tell. And then you can hear that very distinctly, that bass happening just every now and again. That is so tasteful. But if you've got good enough headphones or your sound system's good enough, you should be able to hear the sound of the synthesizer just go over the top of this.
I am standing up at the water's edge in my dream. I cannot make a single sound as you scream. It can be that cool, the ground is still warm to touch. Hey, we touch, this place is
Just such an amazing voice. He's not what you would know as like as a singer per se, but he is seriously one of my favourite singers. He's got such a great tone to his voice.
Sensing that storm, red rain is coming down. Red rain, red rain is pouring down all over me. Well, I've seen them buried in a sheltered place in this town. They'll tell you that this rain can still never down. There is no blood around, see no sign of pain. Hey, no pain, seeing no rain, don't see no rain. Red rain is coming down. Red rain. Red rain is pouring down all over me.
And listen to the vocals here. If you're keeping up and you're hearing all of the things that I've been trying to point out, so much going on, just listen to what happens here.
I'm putting the pressure on much harder now to return again and again. Just let the red rain splash you. Let the rain fall on your skin. I come to you, defenses down, with the trust of a child.
See, and this is back in the day where nobody was afraid to make songs really long. And prior to this album, you know, Peter Gabriel was very experimental. If you don't know much about him, he started out in Genesis, and in all of his earlier albums were very different to this. This is his first sort of commercial kind of success, but he still wasn't afraid to try things. He still wasn't afraid to just make a song that's like 5 minutes long like this. It's a really, really great track. And one of the classic things that they used to do prior to year 2000 is they were very specific about the first song that was on this album, because that was the one that was meant to grab you and get your attention. And it certainly did that. So we will move on to the legendary Sledgehammer song, which probably most people know him for. I admit this is the first song I ever heard. I was only a kid when it came out, so that was understandable. I wasn't one of the cool kids, obviously, but it was on the radio, and this is how everyone got to know Peter Gabriel. So in this one, he actually plays the piano as well as the Prophet synthesizer and the Fairlight CMI sampler, which is apparently the thing that makes it sounds like a flute that's in the middle of the song. Depending on the version, it's also at the start. This one's at the start as well. This one, like the first song, includes David Rhodes on the guitar and Daniel Lanois again, who's the producer on the album, Tony Levin once again. This one features Manu Katché. Now, he's a French drummer, and apparently he was brought in, according to the Classic Albums episode that I saw where they interviewed everybody. This song, the drums were recorded last, so everything else was done, and they brought in Manu just for this song. He has done other songs with him, but he'd not worked with Peter Gabriel before. And according to all of them, this was done in one take. He just listened and got himself familiar with the song. He's obviously got a very mathematical mind. He could, understand the whole song and how it was laid out. And then he just came up with this amazing drum track that most people know. Well, I say most people know, and I always say this, that a really good drummer, you don't notice, because if they're so good, they've done their job, they've implemented and integrated into the song so well that you just don't notice they're there. And this song and that drum is exactly that for me. And then when I did notice it, I'm like, how, this is unreal. How did I not notice this before? Anyway, then we've got the trio that's often used on these kind of songs is Mark Rivera, Don Mickelson, and Wayne Jackson, all doing the horn section, the saxophone, trombone, and the trumpet, which a lot of people know. This is the thing that for some reason stands out. It is very, very distinctive. That is huge, that sound of the horn. But then you've also got the bass line that Tony Levin came up with, which, as far as I can tell, most bass players can't play it and make it sound right because he's using a pick and it's a fretless bass, much like how a violin or a cello is. So there you go. The drums already, that he's right on it. That as soon as the verse is about to start, he does that double flam, which is on the snare. So that bass line is absolutely killer, so groovy and like such a magnificent note choice. Just listen to that.
You could have a steam train if you just lay down your tracks. You could have an aeroplane flying if you bring your blue sky back. All you do is call me. I'll be anything you need. You could have a Big Dipper.
I absolutely love those things in songs, starts and stops, because everybody needs to be on it. They need to be on the beat. They need to know what's happening. And for people just listening to it, if you've not played an instrument, it's actually not as easy as it sounds.
Going up and down, all around the bends. You could have a bumper car bumping. This amusement never ends. I wanna be the sledgehammer.
Yeah, that bass line there as well. Just listen to that.
Why don't you call my name? Oh, let me be your sledgehammer. This will be my testimony. Yeah. Yeah. Show me around your fruit cage.
Now, this is another section where the horns are starting to come in, but they're doing that cool thing that they all do where they da, da, da. Listen to it, come in.
'Cause I will be your honeybee. Open up your fruit cage where the fruit is as sweet as can be. I wanna be your sledgehammer. Why don't you call my name? You better call the sledgehammer.
Now, these instrumental sections are really good for training ear to hear all the instruments. And if you are doing this, I don't care how good you are, it's always worth doing. Listen through a song once and just listen to one instrument, just listen to the drums. And then the next time, just try to listen to the horns. The next time, just listen to the singing. And you'll find if you're able to pick them out one at a time like that, you can pick them out at will later at any point in any song. That is so snappy, that bit with the drums, it does with the drums there. That I'll do it again. The reason I've gone this long into the song, as you might know, I don't always do that. But the drum fill that he does is just fits the song so well. And again, don't forget he did this in one take. Such a great song. There's just no two ways about it. And you know a good song even if it's been 30 odd years, he's still willing to listen to it from start to finish. And next up, we have Don't Give Up, which famously featured Kate Bush on vocals, and famously also that the song's called Don't Give Up, and he allows her to be the one who sings that line. Often when there's a guest singer coming in, they don't do that, but he just kind of handed the mantle over to her. So once again, Peter Gabriel doing the lead vocals, as well as Kate Bush, as I just said, as well as the Prophet synthesizer, the Lynn synthesizer, and the Fairlight sampler. Then Tony Levin on bass once again. Also David Rhodes again. Manu Katché, who was on the last song, is returned for this song. This one has Richard T, I believe that's how it's pronounced. Sorry, Richard, if it's not. And he's playing piano. And last we've got, now he's credited as Simon Clark, but most know him as Andy Clark. He's a producer and he plays the CS80 synthesizer on this track. Again, that's such a tasty bass line, so creative. Listen to that do 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 do. He's doing what they call harmony kind of chords. It go do 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 do. And you can hear the synth over the top of that.
In this proud land we grew up strong. We were wanted all along. I was taught to fight, taught to win. I never thought I could fail.
And the way he sings doesn't get you in the feels. You don't have any. That's what I think. He's just got such an emotive way of singing, but I just can't get over how good that tone that he has to his voice.
No fight left, or so it seems. I am a man whose dreams have all deserted. I've changed my face, I've changed my name, but no one wants you when you lose.
Don't give up, 'cause you have friends. Don't give up.
You notice that good musicians, I believe anyway, that less is more really is a thing. And you can hear as good a bass player Tony Levin is here, he's backing off and occasionally hitting notes and giving all of the room to the synth and to Kate Bush.
You're not beaten yet. Don't give up. I know you can make it.
In case it's not obvious, when I'm doing this, that's my symbol for playing the bass.
Good.
Though I saw it all around, never thought that I could be affected. Thought that we'd be last to go. It is so strange the way things turn. Drove the night toward my home, the place that I was born, on the lakeside. As daylight broke, I saw the earth, the trees had burned down to the ground.
Don't give up. You still have us.
Yeah, not sure what kind of sound system you're listening to this or watching this on, but if it's decent enough, you will hear that synth, that it's supporting everything. It's like the glue holding it all together.
Don't give up. We don't need much of anything. Don't give up, 'cause somewhere there's a place where we belong.
Yeah, there you go. There's the difference between a keyboard and a synth. You can hear right there. A keyboard is very distinctive. Chords that bang, like ding ding like that, whereas synth sort of more holds on to notes.
Rest your head. You worry too much. It's gonna be alright. When times.
So I don't know if you noticed when I was doing that do because the keyboard lows that way, highs that way, and I was trying to signify that piano bit was coming in. It's like a preempting that what Kate Bush is about to do. We'll see if I can listen to that again.
When times get rough, you can't fall back on us. Don't give up. Please don't give up.
And again, notice that a lot of the musos on albums like this, they try to stay out of the way of the singer and the singing. And I hear every almost interview, I hear a studio musician say, "You got to stay out of the way."
Got to walk out of here. I can't take anymore. Gonna stand on that bridge. Keep my eyes down below.
How killer is that? That falsetto he does, he goes up so high and so tasteful. Have to listen to that again for sure.
Bridge. Keep my eyes down below. Whatever may come and whatever may go, that river's flowing. That river's flowing. Moved on.
So lovely bridge there. I believe that's what that part of the song is. If you don't know song structures, I think everyone knows what a chorus is, but the verses are the the starts and the bits in between the choruses. But then you have a bridge, which is that section, which is just it's almost like a chorus, but it's just one of them in a song. I don't think there's ever more than two.
To another town, tried hard to settle down. For every job, so many men no one needs.
Don't give up, 'cause you have friends. Don't give up, you're not the only one. Don't give up, no reason to be ashamed. Don't give up, you still have us. Don't give up now, we're proud of who you are.
Hear that? It's like a whale. That's like the bass. I'm not sure if he's using the fretless there to do that, or he's bending the string on it to do that.
We're proud of who you are. Don't give up, you know it's never been easy. Don't give up, 'cause I believe there's a place where we belong.
And then you hear the song, the outro of it, it completely changes now. See what I mean about them not afraid to go on for 5.5 minutes if the song deserves that. And the next song is called That Voice Again. Now, full disclosure, I didn't listen to this album back in the day. It was the 1001 Albums generator that got me into this album. Because, you know, it's a trap, really. You see an album and you go, oh, I know that artist. I know some of the songs on it. And you can fail and think that you know the album. But you really don't. You really do have to listen to these albums. And this song became such an earworm for me that, and this album in general, I had to listen to it every day. Where normally with the album generator of 1001 albums, I'll listen to one per day. But then when I got onto this, I couldn't listen to anything else because I kept wanting to listen to this. And so That Voice Again, of course, features Peter Gabriel on lead vocals, but also he does piano, Prophet synthesizer, and the CMI sampler again. Once again, David Rhodes on guitar, Daniel Lanois on electric guitar and 12-string guitar, Tony Levin also on bass, Manu is back on the drums again, and on this one we have Al Shankar is the violin player. Now those drums, I actually thought when I first heard this that I actually thought it was Stuart Copeland from the Police because I knew he played on this album. But this, Mono, some really snappy. You listen there, you got the snare happening, but then he just does this really quick on the toms, just so snappy and so fast there. And for some reason, the thing, like, there's a lot of guitar as a guitarist that I ignored because there's so much happening in all of these songs. But David Rhodes is such a great guitarist. He's not fancy, but he just knows the chords and knows the right things to put. And believe it or not, it's really hard when you've got keyboard players, because keyboard players, they've got all the chords. We guitarists are often frustrated, keyboard players, by the way, because we just can't do the chords those guys can do. And if we start doing fancy chords, the keyboard player wants to kill us. So we just have to do basic stuff. And that's what, David Rhodes is doing. But the guitar on this, I don't know if you can hear it, but that going on there. Very, very nice. And see then, wonderful tastefulness where everything stops and it's just the drums going there.
Oh, I'm listening to the conversation, judge and jury in my head.
And so notice now you've got singing, and then drums is essentially just the bass drum, the doof doof, the low sounding one, and the hi-hat going on there, and then occasionally hitting the snare like that.
It's coloring everything all we did and said. Still I hear that sharp tongue talking tangled words. I can sense the danger. Just listen to the wind.
If you don't know what toms are, that's what that is right there. That I'll play that again for you.
The wind.
So much space in there. They're just willing to just let things breathe. It's unreal.
I want you close, I want you near. I can't help but listen, but I don't wanna hear that voice again. And I wanna be with you, I wanna be clear. That each time I try, it's the voice I hear that voice again.
And then right there, the bass is, it's just weights and it's just money on the drums, on the hi-hat. Like, imagine playing that live would be incredibly difficult, waiting, like you're waiting and watching the drummer and going, right, who's coming in first? And it's Tony on the bass there. I'll play it again.
Oh, I'm hearing right and wrong so clearly. There must be.
And you're somewhere there. I'm normally really, that's one of my talents really, is knowing what happens at what place in a song. As a young kid, I was really good at that before I could even play an instrument. But there, I got lost and didn't know where I was because I started playing, it was just the hi-hat playing there.
Be more than this. It's only an uncertainty that we're naked and alive. Hear it through the rattle of a streetcar. Hear it.
So once again, the piano or the keyboard there was just supporting, but in between the vocals.
To the things you said, I can get so scared. Listen to the wind.
You hear that haunting vocals over the top there, so tastefully done. Those drums, he is such a killer drummer. Listen to that again. Very like Phil Collins-esque, that.
I want you close, I want you near. I can't help but listen, but I don't wanna hear.
If you haven't watched any of my videos when I'm doing that, that's my symbol for the backing vocals, the higher up vocals.
Hear that voice again. What I carry in my heart brings us so.
So notice there, it's just, there's no bass now. No, when I say no bass, I mean no low sounds at all. It's just all like mid and treble sounds.
Closer, so far apart. Only love can make.
And then when the bass comes in, the bass and the bass drum of the drums comes in, you really notice it. Like you notice the day when it's been dark. Well, you know, that was a really long note to hold.
And I want you close, I want you near. I can't help but listen, but I don't wanna hear. I hear that voice again.
Such a great song. I know I said that about almost all of them on this album, but they really are. Okay, the next song is Mercy Street. I should also point out the order I'm giving them in. It's all what's on Apple Music and Spotify, and the reason apparently that they're in this order. This was the intended original order of the songs. What Peter Gabriel wanted to do. He always wanted. Apparently, I heard him say this on one of the interviews that he wanted. In Your Eyes to be the last song, but the limitation of vinyl, there's some limitation when it gets to the end. They're limited on how much information they can put there, and they needed it to sound a certain way, so they had to have it in the middle of the vinyl album. So this listing, the way it is how they intended it, even though the CD releases and the vinyl releases were not done in this order. So getting into Mercy Street. So this one was one of few songs that Peter did not use Tony Levin. He brought in a guy named Larry Klein to play the bass. Now, in the interview, they talk about that Peter says, oh, look, sometimes Tony Levin is a magnificent a bass player. He's not just technical, but you can tell from listening to all this, he's very musical. And just sometimes Peter says, oh, he doesn't play what's in my head. Well, fair enough. I don't know if anyone knows what's in anyone's head. So sometimes he brings someone else in, and he brought Larry Klein along to play for Mercy Street. And I noticed when he was demonstrating it, he was using a 5-string bass. And if you're not aware, like most bass guitars have got 4 strings, and it marries up with the same, like as a 6-string in a normal guitar. Normal guitars have got 6 strings and normal basses have 4. But when you go put a 5th string on a bass, it's a thicker and deeper sounding one. It's usually tuned to B, a lower B. You don't need to remember that. But what you do need to know is if he's on that low B string playing something, it's in a different key. It's a different sound completely to what you'd be getting on a 4-string, and Tony Levin is known for playing 4-string. So I'm not sure if that's what it was, that he just came and just started playing on the 5-string bass, and it just went, oh yeah, beautiful, because it would have sound, and it does sound completely different to what you could have done on a 4-string bass, if that makes sense. Returning on this one is Richard T on piano, and Mark Rivera playing the saxophone, and then Dioma Carrera playing the sordo, I think it's called, the bass drum. So you could already hear that bass, how low it is, because he's hitting that low B string. It sounds almost like a synth that's that low. that's that bass riff that I was talking about. This dun 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 dun.
Looking down on empty streets, all she can see are the dreams all made solid, are the dreams made real. All of the buildings, all of the cars.
It's been a while since I watched the classic albums, but I think this is a song where the vocals, because back in then they didn't have pitch shifting, they didn't have Pro Tools, so they had to do everything organically and pretty much always analog. And to do that low vocal that you may or may not hear in there, that the only time that he could reach, Peter Gabriel could reach that low vocal was first thing in the morning before his coffee, apparently. So he slept the night in the studio and first thing got up and recorded this low part.
Were once just a dream in somebody's head. She pictures the broken glass, pictures the steam.
And if you're trying to pick it out, the best way is like if you sing along to, even if you're not a good singer, just try to match the notes that you're hearing of the main vocal with your own voice. And while you do that, that will hear, that's the main vocals. And then from there, hopefully you can hear the lower one once you've established in your mind where the main one is.
She pictures a soul with no leak at the seams. Take the boat out, wait until darkness. Let's take the boat out, wait until darkness
Such lovely vocals there.
comes. Nowhere in the corridors of pale green and grey.
Now, in that bit, I'm hearing that really quite a lot louder than at the start, the low vocal that I was trying to talk about.
Nowhere in the suburbs, in the cold light of day. There in the midst of it, so alive and alone. Words support like bone, dreaming of Mercy Street. Where you're inside out, dreaming of mercy. In your daddy's arms again, dreaming of Mercy Street. Swear they moved that side, dreaming of mercy. In your daddy's arms.
So these instrumental bits are a really great time to listen and see if you, because singing makes it hard sometimes to hear what instruments are doing in a song. And some people, that have gotten to know me have learnt that solos or instrumental parts are really important. And because some people see it as toilet break time, oh, this is where you talk over the song or whatever. But this is a really good opportunity to hear what's happening a lot easier than you would normally. It's a lovely sound that might be the Fairlight for all I know, that do do do.
Pulling out the papers and drawers that slide smooth, tugging at the darkness, word on word, confessing all those secret things in a warm velvet box. To the priest, he's the doctor, he can handle the shocks, dreaming of the tenderness that tremble in the hips of kissing Mary's lips. Dreaming of Mercy Street.
So there's something interesting I have to say about songs like this. Like, if you just listen to this by itself, sometimes you might go, oh, I need more, or this is not enough for me. But these kind of songs are a magnificent way of breaking up an album, because sometimes an album that's all the same sort of tempos, the same upbeat kind of songs, it becomes monotonous. But then when you break it up, you had Don't Give Up, and then, you know, That Voice Again, which was a bit more upbeat, and then now Mercy Street, which is low down and relaxed with virtually no drums in it. When you listen to the whole album as in one go, it's a lot more pleasant to listen to. So this next song is called Big Time, and it is a big track. It's very out there and like in your face, and wow, it's just one of those, to me, it's just a really killer song. So we'll go through. Of course, Peter Gabriel on lead vocals, Prophet synthesizer, the Lynn synthesizer, and the Fairlight sampler. Then back on the bass is Tony Levin playing bass guitar, with also this added thing where he used the drumsticks to smack onto the strings of the bass to have a percussive effect. Then you had Jerry Marotta, the drummer, playing, they've called it drumstick bass. He's also stroking the bass strings with sticks. This is what research I've done, and I've heard them talk about it. So there's this interesting sound that they were going for. Then you've got Andy Clark back playing just normal bass and the Hammond organ as well. This one actually has Stuart Copeland from the Police playing drums. One of my favourite drummers. He's amazing. I love him. And a lot of even metal drummers love Stuart Copeland. You've also got Jimmy Bradlower on the Lynn drum programming, or the kick drum as they've called it here. David Rhodes back on guitar. Daniel Lenoir on the surf guitar, as he calls it. Mark Rivera, Dan Mickelson, and Wayne Jackson playing the horn section, so the sax, trombone, and the trumpet. This is... Get ready. This is a big one.
Hi there. I'm on my way, I'm making it.
Now, already, you can hear massive, I've already warned you, but in between all of the bass and the drums, which is right in your face, you can hear the guitar. I think that's Daniel playing what they call the surf guitar.
I've got to make it show, yeah. So much larger than life. I'm gonna watch it growing.
I guess that bass bit is what we were talking about with the drumsticks on the strings. And then the vocals are whoa, going around. And then that's cool as how that whole thing is so snappy that it's what we call tight, where everything's starting and stopping, and if you're not any good, you just can't be in time. So you've got the stabs of the guitar, and then in the middle of that, I think that's keyboard and the bass together going.
I come from is a small town. They think so small, they use small words. But not me, I'm smarter than that. I worked it out. I've been stretching my mouth.
And there you can hear a little bit of a low vocal happening in that bit where he's stretching my mouth. I think it's about there.
To let those big words come right out. I've had enough. I'm getting out to the city, big city. I'll be a big noise with all the big boys. So much stuff I will own. And I will pray to a big God as I kneel in the big church. I'm on
and those vocals there are amazing. That big time.
I got to make it show, yeah. So much larger than life. I'm gonna watch it growing. My parties have all the big names, and I greet them with the widest smile. Tell them how my life is one big adventure, and always they're amazed when I show them round the house to my bed. I had it made like a mountain range with a snow white pillow for my big fat head.
And then it comes in. I couldn't get away. Like I've tried to point out as much as I could in this song without like ruining it and jumping in too much. But I think you get the idea. And also now the song's just taking a bit of a turn.
And my heaven will be a big heaven, and I will walk to the front door. Big time. I'm on my way, I'm making it. Big time. Big time. I've got to make it show, yeah. Big time. Big time. So much larger than life. I'm gonna watch it growing. Big time.
I just got to point out there as well, like I mentioned about Stuart Copeland, and if you don't know the Police, you obviously don't know how good a drummer he is. But in these bits, there's always that do-do-do. He's just do-do-do on the bass drum. It's so distinct.
I'm gonna watch it growing. Big time.
I was trying to just stupidly show with my leg, but I would do that.
Big time. My car's getting bigger. Big time. My house getting bigger.
It's so punchy and so like in between everything else. It's just classy as.
Big time. My eyes getting bigger. Big time. And my mouth. Big time. My belly's getting bigger. Big time. And my bank account. Big time. Look at my circumstance. Big time. And the bunch of my
Big right to the end, that song. The next song is called We Do What We're Told, which is quite an interesting song. Again, it's dropping back from the pace of the previous song, which is really cool. It's not a long song compared to everything else on there, but it is quite different to everything else on the album. Again, it's a great breaker for when you put the album on and just listen to it, if you've still got the CDs. So, of course, Peter Gabriel is lead vocals, piano, Prophet synthesizer, the Fairlight sampler, David Rhodes on the guitar, and Jerry Marotta on drums. And this one also has Al Schenker on the violin. So you've got the distinctive do-do-do happening, but you've also got the synth, which is just the chord just being held over the top. that guitar work is very interesting to me. It sounds like he's using the whammy bar. He's hit the note and going like that. Like you can sort of do it with bending as well, but it sounds more like a whammy bar. In case it's not obvious, that's the whammy bar I'm doing there. I'd show what I mean, but I actually don't have any guitars with whammy bars at the moment. It's an interesting song. It's very creative. It's nothing like well, it does remind me of another song I won't say, but
One note, one voice, one war.
it's got those interesting keyboard / synth sounds in there. I really like that. Now I am going to skip ahead to In Your Eyes because this is the picture that was not intended for the original release on vinyl. It gives you something to go and listen to anyway. And as I said earlier, that In Your Eyes was only put in the middle because of restrictions with the way vinyl was made. They weren't able to put it at the end and have it sound. They wanted it to sound the way they wanted it to sound. So anyway, that's what they did. Now, In Your Eyes features Peter Gabriel on lead vocals and the Fairlight sampler and piano. Now, this is an interesting song because it's got a bit of an African feel to it, and it also features singer Youssou N'Dour. I can't remember where he's from. I should know where he's from. But then, of course, it's got David Rhodes on guitar, Tony Levin on bass, as well as Larry Klein on bass for some reason, both of them on there. Manu Katché, again, on the drums. Jerry Marotta, additional drums. You wouldn't think, the way this song sounds, there's that many people on it. Richard T on the piano, Jim Kerr on backing vocals, Michael Bean and Ronnie Bright on backing vocals on this. It's quite an interesting song. It's good.
I get so lost sometimes.
Yeah, if you try to do those drum hits the way I'm doing them and you're finding it hard, that's kind of what an African beat is. It's a little bit out of what you would know as normal time.
will burn without a noise, without my pride. I reach out from the inside. In your eyes, the light, the heat. I am complete.
And that's where the vocals are very African sounding to that your eyes in the back there.
See the doorway, the thousand churches, the resolution of all the fruitless searches. Oh, I see the light and the heat. Oh, I wanna be that complete. I wanna touch the light, the heat I see in your eyes.
You could hear the drums as clear as day there. That was amazing. It was just percussion, just drums, and that takes a lot of guts to do that, to just go, oh, I'll just put the drums there and very little else. And so like you see here now, it's mainly the keyboard leading up to get the vocals started, and the drums is very basic now. Just that kick drum, the doof, doof, that's the kick or the low drum.
I don't like to see so much pain, so much wasted, and this moment keeps slipping away. I get so tired working so hard for our survival. I look to the time with you to keep me awake and alive. All my instincts, they return. The grand facade so soon will burn. Without a noise, without my pride, I reach out from the inside. In your eyes, the light, the heat. I am complete. See the doorway, the thousand churches, the resolution of all the fruitless searches. Oh, I see the light and the heat. Oh, I wanna be that complete. I wanna touch the light, the heat I see in your eyes.
And here, the next bit, this is where you hear Yusu coming in. And apparently it's quite a spectacle live when they do this song. So there you have it. That is Peter Gabriel-So from 1986. If you haven't heard it, well, now you have. And as promised, I did say that I would at the end, so I'd get the music out of the way just to not crap on too much and get into the music as early as possible. But I did promise that I would talk about what the 1001 albums even is. What the hell am I talking about if you've never seen any of my videos before? Now, a little bit of an introduction to it is, I kind of got a bit stagnated with music because, let's be honest, Spotify is not the greatest anymore at giving you suggestions. None of them really are. None of the streaming services I've found will bring up something you just never heard before because it's shaped on what you've been listening to. It's very hard to get out of that trap. So someone recommended to me what they call the 1001 albums generator, and that is a website which is based on the books 1001 albums you must hear before you die. I say books plural because there was an original one in 2005, and that again, it's not 1001 best albums of all time. Just remember that it's what a whole host of people got together and decided what they deemed to be collectively 1001 albums you should hear. Not the best of all time. And that opens up a really different perspective, and it's really changed my view of the music world and so many albums and so many artists that I didn't know of before, and now I do because I've been doing that, going through and listening to these albums. So that's what the book was, and every 5 years I think they release a new one and they update it with artists that have released music in the difference in time. They remove some of the older ones and put in some of the newer artists in each book, so they don't completely, because 2005, from start of music pretty much to 2005 is the first 1001, but then that every 5 years they don't need to put 1,000 more. I don't know how many they put in, but every time they update it, they introduce new artists to it. And the website I mentioned, which I am not affiliated with in any way, not that they charge you, there's no money involved in it. That website, you sign up, and once a day it'll just randomly generate one album from those books, and you'll get anything from back in the 40s, or even I think it goes that far back. Anything from Frank Sinatra up until modern times. You'll get Taylor Swift, or you might get a Metallica. There's all sorts of different albums in there, and it's fantastic. It's worth just going through one album and just breaking out of this cycle of listening to the same stuff. And by doing that, because it opens up, if you've got Apple Music or you've got Spotify or even YouTube Music, you can open up into that platform, and you're then, by listening to one album of those every day, you're starting to teach the algorithms different things. And I'm finding mine now will start to play me more variations of music. And it's also taught me to appreciate older music, because there's a lot of older music that I haven't heard. I've got a pretty good taste in music, got a pretty deep appreciation of music, and I try to find something good about every artist that I possibly can. I've made the mistake of judging music too quickly. So I've tried my best to not do that, to not go, I don't like it for this reason. But I've got some doozies in there that I, just as like some critics says, there's critics out there that said that, Led Zeppelin 4 was a crap album, and, look at how big that is, still big to this day. So anyway, that's what I think I'll have to say about that. So if you do have any questions or anything you want to add, of course, I'm pretty receptive to reading and responding to comments. So drop me a line. Anyway, thanks for watching.